Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome on into the On Deck Circle podcast. As you can tell, Mr. Zanaboni is not here with us today because we're going a little bit late. So 10 p.m. is apparently past his bedtime, so he isn't probably even watching this. So Nick, fuck you, since you're not here to listen to me. So I'm not going to take up too much time though. Let's bring in Jason. Jason, how we doing, my man?
Dave, what's going on? Yep, I'm not one to have a strict bedtime, so I was actually able to make the accommodations here for our special guest tonight. So I'm actually pretty excited.
I'll tell you got to do me a favor. We got to make like a pact between us that we're not going to let him live this down for a while. Oh, I tell you what, let's not let him live it down until the season starts.
Okay, that could be.
Okay, so we're probably talking at least like 8 weeks.
Yeah, at the earliest. I mean, we could be talking 8 months. Yeah, we could be talking about.
If you saw on Twitter too, Bob Nightingale is reporting that they might be coming to a deal pretty soon. So that probably
we all saw how that went last time. So
yeah. So I had said in the 30 Rock chat that probably means that we're going to lose the 2023 season as well, since Bob's calling on that. So
the last thing we want is Bob Nightingale optimism at 2 a.m. Telling that there's a deal done to wake up the next day and be like, no, that's all false.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather he said, yeah, negotiations have stalled, nothing's happening, you can forget about the season. Then we can start like getting in more drafts and getting ready to go,
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, let's bring on our guest this week. We've got another special guest, another guy who has a laundry list of places that they contribute content to, and another really great mind, another guy that's also in 30 Rock. So let's go ahead and bring in our good friend, Mr. Corbin Young. How's it going, Corbin?
What's up? Thanks for having me. Yeah, thanks for accommodating. I know I'm on the other side of the United States here, but
it's just Nick. Nick's just a bitch about it. We're adults over here, so we can deal with it. But yeah, Corbin, working at Fantrax and RotoWire and Fantasy Data and other less baseball friendly sites. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing and where people can find you.
Sure. Yeah, on Twitter at Corbin_Young21. Like you said, just mostly baseball stuff at Fantrax. Just started with RotoWire, doing some player news, outlooks, and stuff like that. Maybe an article is coming soon. Occasional baseball work at Fantasy Data, but yeah, mostly fantasy football stuff there, and RotoViz and whatever for fantasy football. So dabble in both sports eats up a lot of bandwidth.
I can imagine.
But man, yeah, man, great stuff. I mean, got a lot of respect for you and your role in the industry and stuff. And so we're truly happy to have you here. And are you ready to get into a little bit of Seattle Mariners talk?
Of course, except that third player when you messaged me earlier.
Listen, man, you really don't know who that is?
No.
Are you like more like you just focus more on like redraft and stuff than like stuff like Deep Dynasty though?
Yeah. See, I'm definitely out of my comfort zone in the 30 Rock, which is why most of my team is at the major league level.
Yeah, I mean it's a little. So what I like to do, so we used to do this, Corbin, to where we each picked a pitcher, a hitter, and a prospect, and I love Nick, but Nick always takes the low-hanging fruit. So, Nick just takes the guys that everybody knows and whatever, it's fine. Jason's a little bit in between. Jason will, take some higher, some more higher profile names, and he'll mix in some lower profile guys as well. I always like to go deep. And so once we've switched this around, I've always just maintained the prospect because I'm not going to sit there and give you Julio Rodriguez because I mean, people aren't coming here for Julio Rodriguez talk. You can find that everywhere. So I like to go a little bit deeper without getting too crazy. This is one of the deeper names, but I mean, to be fair, the Mariners system is so deep that if you were to take and put him on a handful of teams, he'd be one of their better prospects, I think. So it's just he gets buried in that Seattle system. But anyways, Jason, you're going to go ahead and take over for Nick here.
Yeah.
And so you're going to cover the hitter and the pitcher. So let's go ahead and let's start with that pitcher. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on Logan Gilbert.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about one of their top young arms. After being a top prospect in the Seattle system, Gilbert went ahead and made his debut in 2021. He did have a little bit of mixed results. Finished with a 4.68 ERA, but he had a FIP that was almost a whole run less, so a 3.73 FIP, which is fielder independent pitching. It's a little bit more based on their actual skill set as a pitcher. But he attacks hitters, throws a ton of strikes. He had a 43% zone rate in 2021. He sets up hitters with that above average fastball that sits like mid to upper 90s. And then he uses that slider to kind of use it as more of like a secondary put away pitch. His slider had a 38% whiff rate in 2021. If he can continue to develop like a changeup and his curveball a little bit more, give him that solid third pitch option that he could, even maybe get a little bit more better results. But if you look at his Savant page, man, he ranked in the top 20% of the league in walk rate. So he's, like I said, he attacks the zone. He's not looking to nip on the corners. He ranked above average in the strikeout rate. And like I said, if he could increase his chase rate a little bit more, maybe not attack the zone so much, and get some the hitters to expand the strike zone, which would then obviously increase the strikeouts. I think he's got even a bigger ceiling than he had in 2021, and I think they were pointing up for this. He's only 24. Again, just made his first full season, debut in 2021. So he's someone you should definitely have your eye on in the Seattle's pitching rotation.
Yeah. So what do you think, Corbin? From like a redraft perspective, how would you view Logan Gilbert heading into this theoretical season?
Yeah, I know. I really like him. The hard part is that the ADP is just like pushed up already, right? Like everybody's like market's kind of shifted where it's like you can't even get like you're probably 15 names you're drafting him is like your SP3, SP4 unless you're somehow hitting pitcher heavy so early. But no, I think Jason hit it on the nose. Like just K minus BB stuff's real good. Improved in the second half. The ERA didn't change in this kind of the second. I just kind of broke up part of the season. It wasn't really the second half, but just kind of second parts of the season. K minus VB jumped from 16.7% to 20.6%. Swinging strike rate improved. But yeah, when you talk about pounding the zone, I haven't looked at like forcing fastballs too much, but he's got over 65% zone rate on that fastball. So it's like sometimes I'll see like pitches at like 55, maybe close to 60, but this guy's like, just pounding the zone with the fastball. But no, I think maybe it's just kind of biased or being from around here, following a little bit of the Mariners stuff. But I kind of do believe in their player development and stuff like that. So I think there's, even though the fastball is like really the only really like good pitch in terms of like run value, is like one of the best four seamers in negative run value and Savant. But I think there's, they're going to probably develop in a little bit. It's a little bit leap of faith, but I believe in their player development to kind of take a step up. And you're just kind of banking on the command and control to kind of improve. But yeah, I know changeup's kind of interesting in terms of vertical movement wise. But I really like them. But it's kind of hard. It kind of depends on. I think in that relegation league, I almost took him as my SP3, and then I kind of played chicken and waited, and then somebody took him. I think we were like right like 2 picks before. I was like, oh, should have just went for him.
When it comes to somebody like Logan Gilbert in redraft, for me, Jason knows this, but when it comes to pitching, I really play it safe. Like I love a guy like a Shane Baz, for example, but I just wouldn't touch him in redraft because I need to know that I'm going to have a floor, and I don't necessarily chase upside in arms. I chase floor in arms. I just try to be really safe because pitching is so damn volatile to me. And a guy like Logan Gilbert's got more innings than a lot of guys that I would necessarily throw in that boat. 119 innings is a decent amount, but I still just don't know what I'm going to get for him. And just at the spot at the ADP, I'd have to take him. I just feel like there's so many other guys that have a higher floor, not so much the same ceiling, obviously. But then in Dynasty, it's kind of the other way around. I'll chase upside in Dynasty all day long, especially young upside. Floor is not really something that I value necessarily, especially in like a young player. I'm not looking for like a Nick Madrigal, kind of a floor. I'm looking for a Julio Rodriguez kind of ceiling. To me, there's just a big difference between, a viewpoint of a guy like this in redraft and a guy like this in Dynasty to me.
Yeah, I mean, just speaking of redraft, and we're talking about TGFBI. His current ADP is 150, so you're talking 9th, 10th round for Logan Gilbert. That's a pretty high price tag for someone of his caliber.
Yeah, I got you for sure. Why don't you go ahead and get into your hitter, Jason? This is an interesting one. Kyle Lewis.
Yeah, he's won something that's kind of interesting. I mean, he debuted in 2019, just a small cup of coffee, but then he had a really solid 2020. He went on to win Rookie of the Year, slash 262, 364, 437, had 11 bombs, 28 RBIs in only 58 games in that COVID shortened season. He did have a little bit of a disappointing and a down year in 2021. It was mostly because he just missed the majority of the season with a knee injury. It was one of those, freak injuries where he ran into the wall. So it's not like it was anything that was over too concerning, just because it's like one of those freak injuries that doesn't, you can't take into account. But he, before going on the IL, he had a really solid month of May. He slashed 273, 368, 394. He had 3 bombs. He had a 12% walk rate. It's a small sample, but he even increased his launch angles in 2021 and cut down on his K rate by almost 5%. I still think he's capable of competing at a high level. Jerry Dipoto, the GM of the Mariners, came out and said, is he someone we're counting on in 2022? So they still obviously see him as someone that's reliable and that they can throw out there every day. Maybe even put him at DH just to maybe limit those injuries of running into the wall. But yeah, he's entering his 27-year-old season, so he's someone that still should be on your radar. And he's not one of those guys that's going to blow you away in any category, but he could be a solid contributor for sure, like an outfielder 3 or something.
Yeah, what are you thinking there for Kyle Lewis, Corbin?
Yeah, I was kind of digging into it. So I think he tore his meniscus on the right side. I think that's the same knee that he tore like right after being drafted. And granted, it's like 3-4 years apart, but it was just kind of something that kind of stood out to me. Yeah, I mean, if you just look at his career, I mean, that's probably kind of safe expectations for like what we're looking for. Like 22 home runs, 7 stolen bases, 258 batting average. Yeah, I think there's been some slow improvements. I mean, it's such a small sample, so it's hard to really like say like, yes, this is a solid trend, but it's like, yeah, striker rate improve, chase rate improve, down from 36%, 26.5, 25.4 last year. Z contact about the same. Contact rates gradually improved, nothing crazy. It was at like 68%. That's not great, but when the contact's that loud, like just barrels up the ball every time he's playing, basically like career 14.3% barrel rate, like that's going to play, right? We can play when you're not making great contact, but it's improving, but it's loud contact. So I mean, yeah, if you just bank in some of that, it's not going to be a great batting average, but it should be okay. I think it's I don't know if the Mariners are going to win 90 games again, but they are somewhat of an improving lineup, I think, hopefully. So there might be some RBI opportunities there. But yeah, no, I think I do like the DHing a little bit. That's probably a good idea. There's just hopefully it just stays a little healthy. I mean, I don't know when he's due back, but yeah, I think if he can, like, the projections look about safe, maybe 500 plate appearances, 25, in terms of home run steals. That's probably a good projection there.
I mean, this is another kind of player that I will typically avoid. Just, I mean, with the bats, so with the arms, like I said, looking for a floor in redraft. With bats, I'm honestly looking for ceiling. But that ceiling has to not come with like crazy extreme risk. And I say stuff like that, and here I am turning around, and I don't know about TGFBI. I'll actually have to take a look in a second, because like Jason and probably like you, Corbin, I've got like 4 drafts going on all at the same time. And so people will ask me about, this draft or that draft, and I'll answer them. As a matter of fact, I did this earlier today in our group chat, Jason.
Yep.
We were talking about our fantasy 6-pack series, and I was like, oh yeah, I just did, this and this and this. And then I go, oh shit, never mind. That's the relegation draft. Never mind. I get them all mixed up. But anyways, a guy like Anthony Rendon is the guy that I've taken in a few spots this year. And you could argue that, health-wise and stuff, he's in a similar situation to Kyle Lewis. I just think that Rendon's, upside is just tremendously higher than a guy like Kyle Lewis, of course. And, big difference between third base and outfield. The scarcity of the position. So while I'm not in favor of guys that are hurt. I mean, God, I've been drafting Strasburg late in these drafts, and I mean, how dangerous can that? How more dangerous can you get than that? But but that's stuff that I'll tend to try to avoid in redraft. Again, in Dynasty, I look at things a little bit different. While Kyle Lewis wouldn't be the type of player that I would target, one of the blurbs in my Dynasty rankings talks about guys coming off Tommy John, and so 30 Rock is a perfect example of a league where a guy gets hurt, gets Tommy John, and his value theoretically is, bottomed out for a while. Those are the guys I like to go chase. Go get me a guy that just got hurt. I know I'm going to sit on him for a year and some change, but I'm willing to wait on that on that value. But I don't feel the same way with hitters. Oddly enough, I just expect that pitchers are going to get hurt. So when they get Tommy John, I'm like, okay, cool, it's happened. Let me see if I can get in on him because we're probably past it now. When a hitter gets hurt, it's like, oh boy, I'm probably going to just stay away from that. So I don't know. It might be a little weird, but that's kind of my thought process a little bit there.
And I would almost argue that if you just look kind of, I mean, granted, nobody drafts off ADP, but if you look at kind of the hitters around him, I mean, if he's going around pick 300 or before that, I'd argue there's some upside to be had there. Right, there's guys like Lamont Wade, Luis Ariz.
Hey, I drafted him in
Connor Joe. I mean, maybe Connor Joe's got a similar profile, but I think there's some. If he stays healthy, there's easily 30 plus home runs in that bat. But if he stays healthy, that's the question there.
We don't have that full sample size, right? We've only seen the shortened 2020 and then an injured season 2021. So it's again, you don't really have that full season to kind of base it off of. So that's what's kind of holding it back, I think.
All right, let's get into my prospect here. This is an interesting one. So I guess this will be a rare opportunity for me to teach Corbin a little bit of something. So hope you brought a notepad, Corbin. No, I don't like to get too deep into it. I just like to put this on people's radars for people that are in leagues deep enough where these kind of people are considerations. And so the guy that I've got here is Alberto Rodriguez, an outfielder in the Mariners system. And I think we were talking about this before we went live. The Mariners have an unfair rich of talent. They literally have so many great prospects that I just absolutely love that, I mean, you could almost take and make two decent systems, out of what they have. And this is an example of a guy that you could probably put him in a dozen systems and he's at least going to be in their top 10, probably in the top 5 of some of these. And, this is a kid that really was, part of the return for Taijuan Walker when he got traded. And, I mean, he's hit really well. And he's got, a good amount of pop, a pretty good hit tool. I mean, he's a guy, let me go back and get exactly what he hit last year. I'm sorry. Let's see. So last year, he was at 2 different levels. He was at low A and high A, mostly at low A. So, you got to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt as a 21-year-old in low A. But still, if we go back, he had 370 plate appearances. So, if you were to extrapolate that out, you couldn't quite double it, but you're getting close. But he had 295, so just under 300. That's obviously good. 383 on base, which is obviously pushing the 400 mark. So that's what you like to see, especially in low A where the pitching is not so great. So you do have to just take into effect that that's probably inflated a little bit, but you'd rather see it than not see it. And then a 484 slug, 10 home runs and 13 stolen bases. So there is a power and speed combination there, and that's part of what's so exciting about him is just the fact that he's just another guy that can kind of do it all. And some people have kind of described the way that he presented himself 2 years ago and the maturity and the progress he's making to that of Julio Rodriguez. And I'm not to sit there and compare the two because I don't think he's going to turn into that kind of a prospect, but that's kind of the same route that he went. And, a guy like Noelvi Marte, who's played with him, is even on record to sit there and, and talk about how he's got, like this Barry Bonds-esque type power, which obviously is an exaggeration, but, gives you an idea of, at least the potential somewhat of an upside to this guy. And of course, any Mariner that could potentially go by the nickname of A-Rod is interesting. So, so what do you guys think? I don't know, Corbin, if you dug into him at all, where you have any opinion, or Jason, maybe your thoughts?
Not really. All I found was that he's on the 40-man roster, and like you said, some power, some speed. Oh, when he said, I mean, literally, when he sent me his name yesterday, I was like, I had no clue other guys. So I've got no input there.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much just gonna echo everything you kind of just said. I mean, he's got that left-handed swing, kind of thin for his size at this point, but I think being the low at the low A level, he's got some time to grow into that frame. But I think for where he's at in the low A, I think like you said, the power speed combo is a really good outlook for him. So yeah, I like it.
The only final note, it's funny that you say like, oh, the Mariner system's like pretty good, but I haven't lived in this area for that long, but I also recall the days where Jack Sorensic was like giving everything away, giving away Adam Jones, just like getting rid of all these players and bringing in like Milton Bradley, platoon corner infielders.
Yeah,
So there were some pretty rough prospect days in the Mariners system.
Listen, man, I'm a Tigers fan. That all I know is rough prospect days. I mean, I literally, like, pretty much in my lifetime, Nick Castellanos is the only homegrown Tiger bat, at least, that I can say like turned into something. So as a Tigers fan, yeah, it's awesome that we've got Torque and Riley Green and Dylan Dingler and all these other guys. But man, until I see it happen, you know what I mean? Like, I'm nervous. Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit of TGFBI here. I don't know how many people know what TGFBI exactly is, but basically it's an industry league. There is I don't know how many, 30 some odd leagues, 15 owners per league, and it's made up of almost exclusively industry people. There's some satellites that people can get into as well, but it's your basic redraft kind of a thing. It's on NFBC, so we go 2 catchers. I will withhold my thoughts on that publicly, but it's got 2 catchers, so take that for what you want. But it's let me look at the exact here, because it goes 2 catchers. You obviously got a corner and a middle infielder, and then it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 outfielders as well. So it gets a little bit deep. It goes 30 rounds total, and so I know we're all participating in it. As a matter of fact, Corbin is in my league, as it turns out. So so Corbin is not one that I've been able to talk to about, hey, what do you think of this? Hey, what do you think of that? Because I don't need him sniping my ass when he's only he's right around me. Let's see, we're only like 5 picks apart. Well, I guess that's a lot in a 15-team league, but we're only a few picks apart. So I can't sit there and reach out to Corbin about anything, unfortunately. But Corbin, why don't you go ahead and just, in whatever fashion you'd like to, kind of maybe run us through your first couple picks, your rationale, your thoughts, and just kind of how you think your team is panning out to this point, because we are in round 27. I think you just made your pick in the 27th round, so we're almost done.
Yeah. I'm at pick 8. Like you said, 15-team league, so I kind of like to be kind of in the middle, just to kind of, I don't know, just see what's going on either end. I went Garrett Cole 1, Starling Marte. Second round, I went a little pitcher heavy. I'm trying to see. I don't think. Oh, I guess the team right next to me went 3 pitchers in the first 4. So and then I went Manuel Clase as a closer 1. It's so gross to see closer up like that, but I think
our draft was crazy because here's a fun story. I had joked, and I don't remember where I said, maybe I said it to Jason and Nick. As a matter of fact, I think I said it to Jason and Nick in our text. I had joked about how I was considering, and I was half serious, but mostly joking. I was considering going pocket closers depending on where I fell. And where I fell was, let's see, what pick did I even get? I got third, which was actually the pick that I wanted. So I obviously couldn't do that. But had I fell a little bit later, I would have at least considered it. I definitely would have gotten one of Hendricks or Hader. Well, somebody actually took that idea and ran with it. And somebody literally from the 14th spot went Hendricks 14th overall, and then Hader 17th overall. So that kind of threw my personal game plan for a loop because I was fully expecting to take whoever was still there in the second round whenever I picked. And in a perfect world, I thought, well, maybe the other one will come back around too because my picks are relatively close together. So I thought I might be able to go closer in rounds 2 and 3. And when somebody went pocket closers, I went, oh shit. Because and I can't explain my entire strategy because Corbin's literally sitting right here.
Got 3 more rounds. Who cares?
Well, but I'm talking about through Fab and everything. But anyways, that really did mess me up a little bit, and I had to kind of recalibrate. I did fully intend the entire time of having 3 quality closers. I expected one of them to be one of those 2, and so I had to pivot a little bit. And we can talk whenever I go. I can talk a little bit more about that. But yeah, I mean, what do you think about how crazy? And I don't think it's just our league either, Corbin, but about this year in particular, how early closers are going.
Yeah, and it's Dave Shovin. So I didn't
Yeah.
know, but he's a pretty, from talking to a few people, he's a pretty good high stakes player. And a couple people I talked to, they're like, he's the pocket closers guy. So maybe if I had done more research, would have known that maybe that was gonna happen. So I mean, but yeah, I know it's really pushed up. It's weird, I tried to follow like my values or whatever, and it's like it's so gross, like I didn't want it. But I think so it looked like my cue was once Iglesias went, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go with Presley or Clase, and I just went Clase, and that and then it kind of just went. Yeah, it's kind of gross. I don't like it, but last year I remember kind of chasing saves quite a bit, and I hate chasing saves because felt like sometimes I would chase saves and bench the guy, and then the guy would get 2 saves, and then I would put him into my lineup, and then he would lose the job, and then I'd be like, it's just a mess,
Yep.
So I mean, just like with anything, you just got to adjust and kind of go with the market. I mean, I would imagine these closers are probably going, 5-6, a round or 2 later, but this year it's just 3-4 seems like where it's at, or right around, if that. So but yeah, I just went pitcher heavy start, and then just hammered bats, and then try to take all the guys that I wanted later on, like Jesus Luzardo. But we can talk about that later.
Yeah, did you end up getting him?
I did. I probably reached a couple picks. I was like, I really, really want this player.
Well, when it gets later, so like early in the draft, I do try to be relatively conservative. When I say early, I'm literally talking like, I don't know, 10, 15 picks. I'm really trying to build a base, get a nice foundation, kind of cover my bases and make sure that, I'm not deficient anywhere. And then as I get later in the draft, then it really starts to become more of I really don't give a shit about ADP at that point. I'm literally just building my team. Earlier on, I wouldn't say I follow ADP necessarily, but it is a consideration as far as, well, do I want to take this guy or do I want to reach for this guy? If I, because I'm afraid that the reach, may or may not be there for the next pick. And so I will play that game a little bit, but early on, I just, I've got what I'm roughly looking to do, positions I'm roughly looking for. And then once I get later, I don't mind reaching for a Luzardo. I mean, that's a guy that, depending on where you took him, I might have just beat you to the punch. So if you don't do that, then you risk losing a lot of those guys, And that's why I like to have my picks, honestly, as close together as possible. And I think most people feel that way, but it always surprises me to hear how many people like to draft actually right in the middle. And to me, that's torture because, I mean, I'm just maybe it's some FOMO, like some fear of missing out on stuff where it's like, I don't want to have a pick like every 15. Like, I'd rather wait like 25 picks and just, okay, whatever happens. And then I can just, when I go to make my first pick, and then I've got like 5 or 6 picks until my next, I can basically plan it out to say, okay, I'm going to snag this guy first because I'm pretty confident this guy will be there in 5 or 6 picks. And if he's not, I can always do this. and then I can forget about it. I can just let the board do whatever it's going to do, and then when it starts to get back around to me again, I start looking again and say, okay, what are a couple targets I can throw in my queue, and if this guy goes, I'll do this, and I don't feel like I have that same advantage if I'm in the middle, where I literally feel like I'm just making like one pick at a time, as opposed to I feel like I'm getting to make like I'm trying to double dip, and I think it helps me to not feel like reaching for somebody is such a bad idea, because I might have 25 picks before I pick again. So if I'm jumping and taking a guy that probably shouldn't quote unquote go there, well, if I don't take him now, he'll never be there. I don't think you can do that in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, just to go along with, I guess, both of your guys' opinions. I went into the draft. I wanted obviously the first 3 or 4 picks. Didn't get that. I got the 15. I thought, oh, this is great. I'll be at the turn. I'll get those 2 guys right in a row. But I think after doing it from the 15, I think I kind of prefer Corbin's technique, because the middle of the round, you do have to wait, only 15 picks in between, where, like you said, I don't know if I like reaching for people. I get, those 2 guys bang back to back, but then you have to wait 30 more picks before you get that player. So I found myself reaching for some players just because I know that those guys are not coming back to me. So it's like you almost have to take that mentality of get your guy, whether it be in that range that you want or some guys that you wouldn't. Like, for example, like I know we kind of talked about it in our group chat. I went ahead and took Wander Franco in the 4th. Now, that's not somebody I would normally take there, but there's no way he's coming back to me in the 5th round at the end of the 5th. So that's kind of an example that's like, after missing out on those top shortstops in the first 2 rounds everyone takes, you kind of find yourself reaching for players that you wouldn't normally do. Where in the middle, you can kind of take a little bit more of a gamble on, okay, I only got to wait 15 picks where the chances are that guy may come back. But I also want to say that I think me and Corbin he's meant 2 of the guys that he's mentioned already I have on my team as well. I took Class A, but I actually got him at the end of the 3rd. And then I actually just took Luzardo in my last pick in the 20th round. So we're sort of on that same, again, a lot of upside there. So yeah, take those guys.
Yeah, Mags and I kind of talk about Luzardo quite a bit in the DMs, but yeah, no, I took him in the 18th, so I probably jumped, but yeah, kind of like past, like 6. I just felt like it was a good spot, and I just was like, screw it, I'm just gonna take a few guys that I like. I might have waited a little too long on catcher. I didn't realize, Dave, that you waited on catcher too. I should have looked at the board a little better, but
yeah, I was looking at
panicked,
the board,
and then it was like Carson Kelly, Yadier Molina, Mike Zunino, and I was like, I guess I'm taking James McCann. I'm like, crap.
So actually, the catcher worked out phenomenal for me. And yeah, I don't know if I think I started a catching run. Let me go back and look. I might have started a catcher run actually. Because I took Kelly, and then it went Molina, Zunino, and then like you said, you got McCann. So all of a sudden, catchers went off the board. But for me, especially in a 2-catcher league, in a perfect world, on this format, I really wanted to get like Real Muto. But again, the whole 2 closers going early kind of threw me for a loop, and it kind of messed up my plan a little bit, because in the first 3 rounds, I really planned on having one of those 2 guys and Remuto. I just wanted to get it out of the way, and then I was going to wait a little bit on catcher. And once the catcher, dominoes started to fall, so to speak, because after Will Smith, I really was just going to wait at that point. So once I didn't get either Remuto or Will Smith, I said, you know what? I'm not going to worry about catcher. I'm just going to see how it goes. And as long as everyone else is avoiding catcher, that's fine with me. But I did have a list of, guys that were my threshold of, I don't want to get 2 catchers worse than this. And I was able to get 2 guys pretty much right at the end of my catcher board. So I got Carson Kelly and Jorge Alfaro, and I got them pretty late. Let's see. I got Kelly in the 19th, and then I turned around and got Alfaro in the 21st. And I think it worked out great, because that's kind of where I wanted to take them. The board at that point, there weren't any pitchers I was really interested in. That was about the only thing I had left to fill. I had a couple pitching spots, and I had like a middle infield spot, but I honestly was waiting on on oh my God, what the hell's his name? I got so many leagues going on right now. I was waiting on Jesus. Where is this son of a bitch? Yeah, I was waiting on a rise. So for Minnesota, because I needed a little bit of batting average, and I was good in home runs. I was good in steals. I was actually debating on Michael Brantley a few rounds before that for the exact same reasons, and I went a completely different route, knowing that I could always back him up because I think he provides the team similar things, and I was strong everywhere else. So it's just kind of the way the board fell, and I loved it. But the top of my draft, I thought, even though it didn't work out the way I thought, I was happy because I got very lucky that whenever I did my KDS, I intentionally went for the third pick because I thought, well, most people are going to want the 1, most people are going to want the 2, and then they're going to want 15 and 14. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, you know what? I would be thrilled with either Trey Turner, Jose Ramirez, or Fernando Tatis. For me, those were the 3 guys that I really, really wanted. And Trey Turner would have been the guy that I wanted the most. And I figured I'll just shoot for the 3rd spot because I'll let everyone else fight over the rest. And as it turned out, I ended up having the 6th overall pick, and I still got the 3rd slot, which was my number 1 choice. And then Trey Turner fell to me at the 3rd spot. I couldn't believe it. And then I backed it up with Cedric Mullins. So, I got speed right off the bat. I took a little chance on Shane Bieber in the 3rd round. Not a huge fan, but I needed a pitcher at that point. And then I started taking some chances because my goal, my whole plan in all of these leagues this year, Corbin, is I'm playing for the overall. So if I get 2nd in our league, I might as well get fucking 10th place. I really don't care. Literally, I'm not saying I'm trying to throw things, but I'm just playing the upside game. So I turn around, I take Byron Buxton in the 4th round. Then I go ahead and I snag my closers. Craig Kimbrell was the last guy that I wanted in my closer group, and I was getting pretty close. So I go Aroldis Chapman in the 5th, Kenley Jansen in the 6th, Craig Kimbrell in the 7th. That was the only way I was going to sneak my 3 in. And then from that point, I'm not, I wouldn't say wasting, but I'm not chasing saves later, barring injury or something happening. I'm not chasing saves with all my fab. I really, really, really wanted to get 3 closers, and I was nervous when, Hendricks and Hader went in the first 17 picks, but I still managed to get my 3 guys. And then I continued to go for high upside. I took Anthony Rendon in the 8th. I took Zach Gallen in the 9th. I went with Luis Urias and Brendan Rodgers in the 10th and the 11th. All risky, profiles. And I just kept going with it. I took Nelson Cruz in the 12th, Ranger Suarez in the 13th, Marcelo Zuna in the 14th. So, if I get lucky and I hit on the majority of these guys, I think that team is going to be spectacular. That team also could absolutely go in the dumps really quick if things, don't break well, because there's a lot of ifs in those picks. But that's been my thought process is I'm playing for the overall. I'm going to go for it. If I finish, 400th in the overall, that's the same to me as finish 100th. So I'm really trying to get up there. And so I was willing to take those risks. And I think I put together a pretty good team. If things were to fall my way, which you're going to have to win in something with so much talent, that I think I positioned myself to at least have the chance for things to fall my way. Make a little bit of your own luck.
Yeah, and I think Rendell's a good bounce back candidate. It's interesting. Yeah, you took Chapman, Jansen, and Kimbrell. You have 25 locked up right there. Wherever Jansen and Kimbrell land, they're probably going to close. So you probably got another I would say 20 to 40, depending on whenever that happens. Probably right. I would probably 40 be ideal if they both land in a closer spot, and then you just got locked up that category right there.
Well, yeah, so, and that was literally the entirety of the plan. So I've got my own little spreadsheet that I use that has 80th percentile numbers from the traditional TGFBI numbers over the years, and so I've basically got 75 saves is what I was shooting for. So I feel like I need 3 quality closers. I don't want to have 2 guys and then be fighting around for that 3rd one. So that's why I was really adamant on the saves, because in years past in TGFBI, I've been in both situations where I have saves and I don't have to worry about it, And I've had other situations where I have like one closer and I'm just chasing saves all year long. And all I'm doing is just pissing away fab over and over and over again. And it usually doesn't pan out, but you don't have a choice. And so you're
Mhm.
putting pitchers in spots that, yeah, you're chasing saves, but you're also kind of hoping that that helps your ratios. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So I really think that not having to worry about saves is worth, all the overpaying early on. And Jason, we talked about this on our Slack channel with Fantasy Six Pack all the time. I was constantly pushing people to get the closer. If you're debating, get the closer, get the closer. Trust me that you don't want to have to sit there and spend all your time and effort every week trying to pinpoint who might get a save and drop this guy and spend $20 here and $10 here. Use that money on hitting and get some starting pitching. Chasing saves is impossible, and partly because everyone's doing it. So I prefer to be safe, get some guys that I really like early on, and that's just probably the biggest headache that I'm avoiding. And yeah, it costs me, obviously some bats and some starting pitching, but I think that I can make that up in fab. A league like TGFBI, yeah, having a great draft is important, but even if you absolutely nail your draft, you still have to do really well in fab. Otherwise, you still aren't gonna compete at a high level. So, you know what I mean? I'd rather save that money.
Yeah, and I actually fell victim to. Now I wouldn't say victim. I kind of, you persuade me to do the not pocket closer, but closers early. That was one of those things where I was like, I put an emphasis on getting at least one good starting pitcher in the first 2 rounds, which I did with Walker Buehler in the second. But then I was like, there was a lot of value still there in the 3rd round. And, we were going back and forth in the Slack channel and like, get closer. And I know that was a really popular strategy this year. And I actually got lucky because my league, only 2 other people took closers before the 3rd round. So I was actually able to get Class A at like pick 45. So that was kind of a luxury on my end because I was not in that mindset. I was like, it's like one of those things. It's like, do you really want to pay up for one category? But yeah, I mean, you have to almost, because again, you don't, like you said, you don't want to be chasing that all season long. Even though, and then it's not just one category because they're going to help you with Ks, they're going to help you with your ratios, as long as you have one of those top tier closers. So I felt you kind of persuaded me with that strategy this season.
And that's why I push for 3, honestly, and I did so. But I feel like every league's going to be different though, because
right.
Like we can use catcher as an example. In Corbin and I league, catching, a lot of people just waited on catcher. So I was able to follow suit and wait on catcher. But even though I didn't want to push the closer situation, like I was already planning on being aggressive on closers. And this league pushed me to be extremely more aggressive than even the extreme aggression that I was planning on. So I was taking closers much earlier than I planned on, but I just felt like that's the way the board was going. And 3 closers is a massive part of my strategy for this season. So I would have liked to have been at least a round behind on all these closers and snuck in another bat or snuck in another arm. But, I mean, you do have to go along and follow with, what your league trends are and what's going on, because I would have also jumped ahead and I would have taken catchers earlier if I had to. I just didn't have to,
And I think with the catcher thing is, the TGFBI is a batting average league. It's not an OBP like more traditional leagues are turning to. So, I mean, when you talk about the catcher position, there's only a handful of guys that are batting over 250 at the catcher position.
Yeah.
So I think the benefit is, if you're not going to get one of those top 1 or 2 guys, you're almost just better off just waiting and being in the blob with everybody else, getting that like 220 to 240 range at a catcher batting average.
Yeah,
no, they all kind of have that same similar blob, 10 to 15 home runs, 50 RBIs, 50 runs, batting 240. Like that's the best situation that you can get from a catcher at that point.
Yeah, and that's why for me in a perfect world, I would have started off my draft with either Tatis, Turner, or Ramirez, and then in some combination I would have went Hader, Hendricks, and Realmuto. That would have been absolutely perfect. That's how I planned it out. And it went to shit real quick. And then once Will Smith went off the board, I went, okay, well, those were the 2 catchers that I wanted one of. If I didn't get one of them, then I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait until we get late and I get down to where I have 5 or 6 catchers that I'm comfortable with. and I'm going to make sure I get 2 of them. And thank God that worked. And I started the catch and run instead of missed the catch and run. So yeah. So,
but question for you, Corbin, who's someone that maybe you thought you I know we talked about a little bit about Luzardo, but who's another guy that maybe you thought, I got to go get this guy, maybe even somewhere a little bit more in like the 10 to 15 range round. Doesn't have to be those rounds exactly, but just someone that you have to have.
I'll tell you what, I think I got a guy that he thinks that way about, because one of the biggest problems that I had in this is at shortstop, the last guy in my tier of I have to have short.
Is Corbin the one?
Yeah,
is Corbin the one?
So Jason knows this because I kept talking about there was a bunch of things that I wanted to do, and I got them all except for one, and that was Willy Adames. And I planned on getting Willy Adames, and you took him before. That's what forced me to take Rendon. I was fairly sure that Adames was going to be there. This was actually a situation where I looked at the rosters and saw, okay, who's got a shortstop, who doesn't, because Adames was, after I picked, there was only like 3 shortstops left on the board that I was comfortable with. And I looked and I went, okay, there's 3 guys who need a shortstop. One of them will probably pass. If 2 of them pass, that means the other guy has to take Adames of the group. And so I come back and I look when I get up to pick, and sure enough, you stinked me on Adames, and that really hurt, because then I didn't know what to do. So I went into our chat and went, okay, guys, I waited on Adames intentionally because I was going to reach a little bit for him to make sure I got him, but you beat me to the punch.
Yeah, there are a couple signals. So Adames is one where it's Swanson and Adames. Like, those are 2 guys. Like, if one goes, like, I'm taking, or if I feel like I'm around pick 100, I'm kind of like with the closure stuff. Like, if I see Presley or one of the guys that I want going, I'm, that's signal that I'm going there. No, I mean, there's a lot of guys that I like kind of in that middle rounds. Like, I love Jonathan India. I love Brian Reynolds. Willy Adames, just kind of that, shortstop's so deep, but he's right at the end of that tier that I want.
Exactly.
Josh
Bell is another underappreciated guy. Just like, just accumulates every year, played a ton of games.
Yeah, Josh Bell actually just went in my league, like really late. I was actually kind of shocked by it. I think it was like after round 15 for sure. I don't have it up exactly, but yeah, he's one of those guys. That's a good call.
Yeah, Justin Turner, underappreciated.
Absolutely.
That's another guy that I just Eugenio Suarez, I'm banking on a bounce back there. So that's kind of one guy that with like Luzardo, as all these picks come up as I have the draft board.
I know. We just had Nate Pearson just went, in case anyone's curious.
Drew Rasmus. Yeah, I mean, last 2 guys I took there. I probably reached, but maybe we're so deep it doesn't even matter. Kissin Hira, Mitch Keller, 2 guys that I think got a ton of upside.
Keston was on my list of guys that I was gonna start considering around this point. Honestly, I thought he would still be there. So
I pulled the trigger early.
You did, because he was on my list of guys that I was considering, and then I looked and he was gone. I went, damn it. And then I looked, I'm like, oh yeah, of course, Corbin took him. That's perfect. Thanks, Corbin. Again.
Yeah, I mean, like, once we get to this like 350 range, I'm just grabbing whoever, and like I don't even like, because I mean, even Mitch Keller, his ADP is like past pick 500. I'm like, well, screw that. I'm going after Mitch Keller, like, so I mean, I'd like to think I was into Mitch Keller before those Tread Athletics videos are coming through, but
I've been a Mitch Keller truther for a while now. I think last year I was like, this is his year, and then I think we had like a 7-something ERA, and I was like, oh boy.
I mean, I've gotten risky at pitcher here as well. The last pitcher, quote unquote, for my starting lineup, and then my first 2 guys on the bench are all guys that are either going to make me look like a complete fool or are going to be genius picks. I got Strasburg, Paddock, and Corbin.
Oh, yeah, that's good upside.
Yeah, it's all good upside, but it also could all be a bunch of zeros. Or I mean, I drafted Corbin early last year, and I ended up dropping him. I don't remember how far into the season, but I ended up dropping him. And he was an earlier pick for me. So that's a little bittersweet. He owes me this year, so he better do something with me getting him this late.
Yeah, I think he's another guy. There's some bounce back appeal there, right? Like, I kind of looked at it. I mean, slider was still pretty good, but not as good as previous years, and like there's a lot of things that's like, well, is the slider trending down or is the slider going to kind of get back closer to where it was past few seasons? So, at that price, you're banking in the bounce back there. And if not, you cut them, right? So, I mean, I think
exactly.
that's perfect where you took them there. I was eyeing Paddock too, right? When I took Hero, and I was like, screw it, I'm taking Hero now. So
yeah,
let's say round.
I just feel like that upside at that spot is, and this is what we were talking about in our chats here too, is when you get to this point, like, like what's the harm really? I mean, if I miss on Paddock and I miss on, these guys, it's like, it didn't really cost me a ton. Like in I don't know if it's in the relegation league. I think it's in the relegation league. I took, nope. It is in the 18th round. I took Trevor Bauer.
You guys are in the 18th round?
Yeah, our relegation league is kicking ass.
Jeez.
But I actually just gave Nick a hard time last night because I don't know what league maybe it was TGFBI. Nick had taken
like the 20th.
Trevor Bauer, like the 20th round. And I went, I don't know, dude. Like, I'm like, this season is going to be shortened at best. I imagine he's going to get a suspension, right or wrong, whatever. I'm just talking from a fantasy perspective. I don't know how much, if anything, you're going to get out of him. And then what do? I turn around, I'm looking at the board in relegation. And again, I'm playing that the same way. I am trying to win my league, period. What's the difference? Because I got relegated, so I'm in AAA like a loser. So I have to win. So if I get second or if I get, 12th, it doesn't matter. I'm trying to win. And so I'm looking at the board and I'm just looking at a bunch of names. And I'm like, oh my God, like I can't see any one of these guys like making a huge impact. And then I saw Bauer and I went, oh God, if I take Bauer, what is Nick gonna tell me? So I reached out to Nick and Jason and I said, hey guys, I'm thinking about taking Bauer in this spot. Like just make me feel good about it. Like tell me I'm not crazy. Like if he sucks, he doesn't play and I drop him, who cares? But man, if he does play, I probably just got the absolute steal of the draft, and that pitching is loaded anyways. But boy, that would make that team just ridiculous. So after literally 24 hours after giving Nick a hard time, I actually turned around and take Bauer earlier than he took him. So
and Bauer actually went in the 14th round of my TGFBI because I was like, once Nick said that, I was like, oh, that's actually a really good target at this range at 2021 round. And I looked and I was like, wow, he actually went. I don't know, maybe they know something that we don't, but yeah, I don't know. That one, the 14 seems a little high for me. 18-20 round, that's a ton of upside there.
Yeah, I think you could take just about anybody there and be justified,
Yeah.
All right, that's enough TGFBI talk. Corbin, we appreciate having you on, my man. I want to give you the floor before we leave to go ahead and, again, talk about, anything, promote anything, plug anything that you want.
Just like, appreciate you guys having me. Good to chat, some Mariners players and, educate me on a player that I had no clue about over 24 hours ago. And talk a little TGFBI. I mean, this is what it's all about, right? Just kind of.
I'm curious who owns them in 30 Rock now. Let me look it up. I'm curious because it isn't me. I'm trying to think probably Jordan. If Jordan owns him, that means at least I got a chance to trade for him.
I was gonna say, yeah, he's always on the trade block, right?
Let's see, Alberto Rodriguez.
And I don't know who it is, but last time I checked the trade block, Kyle Lewis is on our trade blocks. Somebody has him on the trade blocks in 30 Rock. So yeah. So
John Brot. I don't even know how to say his last name. I messed it up when we did our series show anyway. But anyways, John B owns them.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah.
All right, Corbin. Appreciate it again. Let me see. I got to look at my notes here. Next week, I don't even remember who we have. I think I know. James Anderson is going to be on next week. So
awesome.
Another big name. So he's got some shoes to fill there, Corbin. I'll make sure and let him know that he's got to follow you up.
No, I'm following. What am I following? Jeff up. So I'm just sandwiching between talent, basically, right? I'm just you
were just some filler.
Yeah, I'm just the bologna, right? I'm like they're the good bread.
Sure, sounds good, man. But yeah, seriously, appreciate having you on. Great talk,
yeah,
man.
For sure.
Mad respect for you and your work. So if you guys aren't following Corbin, and do so. And we will see you guys next week, probably with Nick back.
Sounds good.